Thank you. Thank you. And once again, I want to thank our sponsor here, Virginia Commercial Finance. It's through their hard work in pulling this all together, as well as Williams Mullen providing just a terrific venue for us to gather this morning. So, once again, thank you. Just to give you some background, I'm employed by Logility. Logility is based in Atlanta, Georgia. It's owned by a holding company that's publicly traded and has been in the space of supply chain management, software development, and professional services for over 40 years. I've been in the domain of supply chain management analytics for 2.5 years. So in many ways, I'm still a novice, but I've been able to sort of bring my skills of what I've learned about analytics over the course of a 30-year career in statistics and data science, and work with the executives at Halo and actually sell Halo into Logility. So now we're held by this publicly traded company down in Atlanta. And one of the nice things about that is it sort of like upsized my role from doing it for 200 active customers and 8,000 users of the Halo software to now where I'm delivering it for a publicly traded company that's been in this space for 40 years, and my role's gotten 10 times larger. And as my role got 10 times larger, of course, I got very busy. I started doing some more travel, and I'm certainly enjoying the role, but it also becomes a point where it can be a little overwhelming in terms of what I'm doing, even to a point of saying, I don't want to learn anything new. Just let me do well at what I'm tasked to do right now, and then blockchain. So suddenly there's this new thing that I need to learn. And at first I was as skeptical probably as anybody else in this particular room with regard to some of the hype around blockchain, but it turns out that blockchain has a clear use case within supply chain management. So it went from something where I'm skeptical about it to something where, no, this is part of my job. I need to understand it. I need to understand it in a broad way. So for the last couple of months, I've gone deep in my mad scientist time after I've gotten all of my other work done, and with my senior management understanding that I was spending some time there to see what is Logility's business case for blockchain, starting with the question of, is there one? Does it align with our corporate goals? Even to the point of getting buy-in from the CEO to even do this talk, because we know what happens sometimes when somebody uses the B word in blockchain, overstock.com, or what was the Long Island iced tea and blockchain, and our stock triples overnight just because we put blockchain in our title. We've heard those stories out there. I don't know if it happened just that way, but I know it is true. So they're comfortable with me going in this space, and it's because we have a legitimate reason for being in this space. So now that you know a little bit about me and a little bit about the firm and how we basically took a small analytically focused software company, and now we joined into a much larger company, then we get to the point where I think this is something I need to learn. And these are the kinds of questions that I came up with. What are the virtues of a blockchain? Why is it foundational technology and not disruptive technology? Foundational technology, but it could disrupt businesses. And it'd probably be important to know which businesses are most likely to be disrupted. What's a compelling business case? Is it always the same business case, or do business cases look different across medicine and insurance and manufacturing and importing? And how do I decide, what kind of blockchain solution is right for my customers at Logility, and what's the right strategy for Logility to try to go into this space? And then, is this something that I should invest in? If it's taking off, can I get in early, like some people got in early into the internet investment activities in the 1990s? Maybe this is the kind of thing that I would want to do, but also could it be highly speculative? And given that I'm a little long in the tooth and getting close to retirement, do I really want to take on that risk? We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on cryptocurrency. We're going to decouple the discussion of the blockchain technology from the underlying cryptocurrency. At the end, we'll have 1 or 2 slides. We'll have some follow-up conversations on that, I'm sure, but it's important to understand that the virtues of a blockchain can be decoupled from any necessary discussion regarding cryptocurrency. But cryptocurrency could be a very useful tool in setting up a blockchain under certain use cases. Now, this slide is purposely blank. This is what I often do when I'm trying to think through developing an understanding of a domain and figuring out what I should do in business or what I should do in a project. Where could this be applied? That's the rows. And the columns are, what are the issues or concerns that I'm thinking about? I found myself thinking about blockchain creates value. when there are assets of value, where there are transactions taking place, and where increasing the trust around that transaction is something that both parties on either side of that transaction would value. And if those transactions now can be done faster, at lower cost, and at less friction of business, now business is moving more rapidly. And if that is something that a business values, then maybe a business would want to look into a blockchain solution. So if a business has an asset that they're managing, if there are transactions among many assets or transactions among many parties, if trust is important, if an immutable data asset that never changes and is broadly distributed to people who are engaged in those transactions, where other people can put data into the database, not just you, that might be a blockchain application. You folks know what businesses you are in, or what businesses you are investing in, or what sectors you are watching. You folks know what are those assets, what are those transactions? Where would an increase in trust through an immutable data set create value for what you're doing or value in the firms that you've invested in? Where would stripping out cost and friction be a value add to a firm? And then you know where you are in this type of a grid, and we would have follow-up conversations on what would be the right solution for you. We're going to come back a little later and we're going to sort of fill in that grid. So what are the features of a blockchain? It was already called out. One of the features is a smart contract. We're going to go into that a little bit deeper. But what I really want you to do is I want you to take out your pen, and I want you to roll up your sleeve, and I want you to write down these 4 things on your forearm, on an inconspicuous portion, so that when you're telling other people about it, you can roll up and say, yeah, it's these 4 things. Encryption, distributed ledger, smart contracts, permissions. Those are sort of like 4 foundational features of a blockchain. How do we know this? Anybody who's gone out and done some reading, probably one of the first resources you're going to find, it's online, it's free, it's published by IBM, Blockchain for Dummies. Strongly recommend that you read that. Or how many people have seen this particular illustration? If you're, maybe not this particular, but who do we see there in the second line across, just above Overstock.com? Google, okay? Microsoft. And basically building out blockchain as assets in their low-cost Azure cloud system. All of these big players, IBM, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, they all agree to these components. Google doesn't get the X filled in because Google has been making investments in other firms and only recently said, we're going to sort of do blockchain development on our own. And they haven't fully defined what their smart contract methodology looks like. But everybody agrees. It's encryption, it's a distributed ledger, it's smart contracts, and it's permissions. And it's the combination of encryption technology with distributed data that can be proven to be immutable that then creates a higher value data asset. And when many people are adding information into that data asset, then the data set becomes more valuable to the many people that are putting information into that blockchain data asset. You have to have permission in many cases, although there are public blockchain examples, and Bitcoin is the most famous one. But it's the combination of these features that creates now a new business tool for solving problems around assets, around transactions, where trust is important, and where reducing friction or reducing cost would be of value to a business.